And a very good morning. It's 7 a.m. Welcome to ONNJ Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. We will take your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. You better bundle up before you head out. Let's head to meteorologist Mike Favetta. A first check of the Garden State forecast. And Mike, it is a balmy 17 degrees in northern New Jersey right now.
Yeah, 11 up in Sussex. The cold won't quit, Ken. It is this cold that just keeps on trucking right through New Jersey, not just today, but even for tomorrow, and yet another reinforcing shot for Friday. Yeah, it's February, but this is just ridiculous considering how we've been stuck in the teens every morning, and with the wind kind of adding insult to injury, gusts are still up to 20, even 30 miles per hour overnight at 7:01. So we have a wind chill of 0 in Trenton, 5 in Newark, 1 in Sussex. Sound like the lottery here. Down toward Atlantic City, 5 degrees for you is how it feels. This is still colder than this time yesterday, so we keep losing temperature going into the next few days, especially with this cold weather reinforcing. Now, the only silver lining is that if you don't like snow, it's the cold weather that's keeping all of that snow away, even for you in southern New Jersey. Look at the futurecast today. Later on this afternoon, any flakes or flurries happen really only for Cape May County and south of Atlantic City, and those won't be impressive because most of the energy stays offshore. We won't even have clouds here in northern New Jersey. In fact, it stays quiet throughout tomorrow, with all of the snow and snowstorms staying well offshore. There could be a few flurries up to our north with the back end of the system coming on through, but even that is a stretch just to see really a flake or flurry because the air will be so dry. It'll be hard for those flakes to reach the ground. We start off on Friday morning again down in the teens and 20s with the actual air temperature. The wind pretty persistent going through tomorrow and Friday. Even though it won't be as gusty as earlier this week, it stays really cold going into the end of the work week. Now, by Saturday, we're actually back up at 40 degrees. That'll feel nice for a change, and Sunday gets even milder. So there is a silver lining. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. All those analogies and similes and sayings, we'll tell you all about them coming up with the brighter, warmer forecast ahead. Well, in the 40s. With the 7-day forecast, Ken, that's coming up in just a bit.
All right, Mike, thank you so much. The time now is 7:03. We do have a few traffic incidents, nothing like yesterday. Yeah, let's hope we don't have a repeat of yesterday, although I probably just jinxed it by saying that. We have a crash investigation and a traffic signal down on Route 202, both directions, in Branchburg Township at Whiten Road. All lanes are open northbound, though. One left lane closed southbound. And then we have emergency construction still, the big sinkhole. In fact, we're going to have an expert on about the sinkhole today and why it's taking so long. It's not that they're not working their butts off. These people are working in bitter cold temperatures day and night trying to restore that. But the sinkhole goes down 50, 60 feet because it is on top of a former iron mine. They need to shore all up, fill in all that empty space, and then build a roadway on top. So that's part of the problem. In fact, you can see it on your screen right there. That's the area where, there you go. There is where the sinkhole is. So we're going to have an expert on who actually he runs a museum in a former mine in northwestern New Jersey. It's a very cool place too. You should take your kids and visit. I am definitely going to make a visit there in the next couple of weeks, but this is the mess that the poor people have been through. If you are at that area in Wharton, New Jersey, I-80, every day you've had to detour, and it's going to be that way, unfortunately, for weeks to come. We also have delays now in the GWB lower level eastbound on the Jersey side, Fort Lee. All lanes are open, but the travel time is now about 25 to 30 minutes. And let's see, we also have a problem, pockets of volume on 295 northbound from south of exit 26N, which is I-76 in Belmar, MAWR, to north of exit 32, Haddonfield, Berlin Road, and Cherry Hill Township. All lanes are open. It's just really delayed due to volume. That's a good thing. So we'll be talking more about that. And in other news now at 7:05, an ordinance that would have allowed police to fine and potentially jail homeless people for sleeping and defecating on public streets and public spaces in Morristown, New Jersey, well, it's been pulled. The proposal was dropped just days after Morristown's very liberal Democrat mayor and council introduced the ordinance without much discussion. They figured they could just slip it in, get it done, because This is what people want today. And being liberals, they didn't want to introduce it, but they wanted to kind of quiet people down who were complaining about it. So they slipped it in. But then some of the activist groups on the left heard about it and started protesting. So before the council even had a chance to vote on the ordinance, Morristown Mayor Timothy Doherty said advocacy efforts, in other words, whiny people on the left, sorry, but that's what it is, led him to make the council reconsider the measure. So they tabled it. They never actually voted on it. So if you want to live in tents on the streets of Morristown and do your business in public for the children to watch, have at it. They will do nothing to you. And if you live there in Morristown and you want to complain about it, don't complain to the mayor. Mayor Doherty will cover his ears. Instead, talk to the so-called public advocates. Oh, but don't be a day late paying those exorbitant Morristown property taxes, or you will find yourself out on the streets because they will probably fine you and repo your house. So that tells you who's in charge. If you are homeless, and that's sad, but you, in many cases, people who are homeless have psychological issues or drug issues. You want to live on the streets and live that kind of life? Go to the public downtown area of Morristown and you will be welcome. So, in fact, I advise you go take your tents and go to downtown Morristown because why should those businesses worry about paying those exorbitant rents and why should people worry about paying those property taxes? It is 7:06 now. A woman is lucky to be alive this morning after getting shot in the face with a crossbow. Police say a Hasbrook Heights man was charged with attempted murder after allegedly shooting the woman in Saddlebrook Monday evening. Raymond Carey was arrested in Pine Beach in Ocean County yesterday. The woman was in her Saddlebrook business Monday evening when the attack occurred. Not yet known what led up to that attack. NTSB officials have been able to garner some information from the so-called black boxes they retrieved in the Washington, D.C. plane and Black Hawk helicopter crash. Preliminary information now shows that the altimeters that registers how high they're flying, the altimeters in the helicopter appeared to be very uncalibrated. Now, they act as meteorologist Mike Pavetta and I were talking about before the show. Those altimeters work on air pressure. So the higher you are, the lower the air pressure. That's how they figure how high you're flying. When you're on the ground, you need to calibrate it because every airport sits at a different sea level. Okay. So before any pilot, a plane or a helicopter takes off, there are two types. I'm really getting into the weeds here, but there are two types of altimeters. One, which deals with like a barometer, deals with the air pressure. That has to be calibrated before you take off. And they have multiples of those, three actually, one for each pilot and one in the middle. And then there is what's called the radio altimeter, which is basically a radar that bounces off the ground. And that is another way to tell how high off the ground you are. But you're not supposed to just rely on that. Bottom line is it appears the pilots may not have properly calibrated those altimeters or that they were malfunctioning. So the pilot's altimeter said that they were at 300 feet when the crash occurred. The instructor or co-pilot said that they were at 400 feet. In reality, the electronics said that they were 278 feet. Here's the really bad part. In all three cases, they were only supposed to be at a 200-foot ceiling. So they were at least 78 feet above how high they should have been. That suggests the altimeters weren't calibrated before they took off and that the pilots were not paying attention and they just kind of drifted. That could happen with wind, but they drifted about 78 feet too high. So they were flying on blind, basically on bad data. Also, air traffic control screamed, "Pass behind the jet," but the pilots couldn't hear that order because one of the pilots with in the helicopter had their mic keyed at the moment. So when your mic is keyed, you can't hear what the other person is saying. So the helicopter pilots never heard the warning. 1 second later, the plane and chopper collided. And lastly, it appears that the plane did see the helicopter at the last minute because they attempted to pull up the nose. All the indicators were that they attempted to flap the tail and the tail ailerons and lift the plane. But by that point, they had no jet power. They were on final approach. It was just simply too late. And we know what happened at that point. Of course, the two collided and all those people died, sadly. But the final report's going to take months to come out. But sorry to get into such detail, but I thought after seeing this was also visual for us, at least we kind of know. And it should be a suggestion and a reminder to everybody to, if you are a pilot, double and triple check those altimeters before you take off. It's something that you have on the checklist. And I know you do it day in and day out. And sometimes you just, it passes you, in conversation with your co-pilot, et cetera. So very sad. I'm going to ask Pam, our director, do we have our caller? All right. So I'll tell you what. Well, let's take a break now, and when we come back, we will have our caller. We're going to talk about Mayweather, rather. Merriweather was an actress. Floyd Mayweather Jr. reportedly looking to step into the world of NFL ownership. We talked the other day about the Manning brothers wanting to buy 10% of the Giants. Now it looks like Floyd Mayweather Jr. may want to do the same thing. I don't know if it's going to be a price war, a bidding war. We'll find out. So we'll talk to Lance Meadow, our sports aficionado, in hopefully just a few minutes. We'll get him on. It's early, so hopefully we'll have him connected and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Plus, it is very cold, 17 degrees in northern New Jersey right now in the Montclair area. It is much colder as you get toward the mountains in northwestern New Jersey. It's 11 degrees. It is blustery. We still have not as windy as it has been, but it's still about 10 to 15 miles an hour in some areas. That makes it feel real cold. Meteorologist Mike Pavetta will come back with a full Garden State forecast when On New Jersey Mornings continues right after this. Don't go away. 7:13 and a nice and warm 17 degrees on this Wednesday morning. And you know who you could always blame? Always blame the meteorologist. No, don't do that. Let's go. It's a meteorologist, Mike Pavetta, who is also as chilly as I am at this point. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, it's not fun. Not even the
No,
dog wanted to go outside this morning. Was like, nah, I'll wait until it warms up a little bit. Well, Rocco's
I
going
don't
to be
blame
waiting a
him.
little bit longer. Yeah, when you look at these air temperatures, how they keep falling, usually the coldest part of the morning is right after sunrise. And here we are with a 10-degree air temperature up in Sussex at 8 o'clock this morning, 18 in Long Branch. All of these temperatures stay at or below the freezing mark today, thanks to that very gusty wind. We'll be just making it to 31 right down the shore from Toms River to LBI, even through Atlantic City. So with the forecast keeping us clear, there's enough sunshine today to make it look nice. And that was kind of the deceiving part. You looked outside yesterday afternoon, we're like, wow, beautiful blue sky. Look at the sun. It looks beautiful. And then you step outside and it is frigid. Well, that's what continues today with that gusty wind. This time, there's the addition of a little bit of flurry activity south of Atlantic City, but that's really the only part of New Jersey that sees any flakes fall from the sky, probably not even accumulating because it's so short lived. All of that energy from the storm stays so far out to sea, it's really not impactful at all. Then we get into tomorrow afternoon. And while there could be some extra clouds, plan on maybe a flurry burst or a flake coming through northwestern New Jersey. That's usually the back end of the system, a little bit of a fold in the atmosphere, if you will, that tends to shake out a few flurries, doesn't do much, then leave a quick coating, and then melts away. And then we are stuck in the frigid territory as well for Friday. So the cold weather sticks around for the remainder of the week. There's the system moving in through the south. Again, it's not our storm, but it will be making way through the mid-Atlantic states, really even south of the Delmarva throughout this afternoon. We are left with the gusty winds and the brutally cold air that make it feel like it's in the teens all afternoon today. Wind gusts will be in the 10 to 20 mile per hour range, even through tomorrow morning. You see ship bottom there on LBI coming in with 25 mile per hour gusts as well on Friday morning, and it stays breezy through the end of our Friday. The weekend sees a little bit of relief, and that's some good news. Not only will the winds be lighter, but the wind chills won't be as harsh, because later tonight, with a 4-degree wind chill in Morristown, there on the green, 14 over in Newark, it feels colder even tomorrow. -2 is your wind chill in Sussex tomorrow morning, getting your day started there. 3 in Flemington and 15 in Toms River. So very cold weather all around, and we don't really see it quit even for tomorrow night, because we're back down in the single digits and, well, minus territory again going into Friday morning. These forecast snowfall totals have been completely wiped from the board, so that's some good news. We'll keep it nice and clear. Just some extra clouds developing today as that system moves in from the south. So 29 degrees in Freehold with the clouds by the afternoon. We'll feel a little extra chilly. The weekend looks dry and sunny. There's some great news there, especially with nothing more than a few extra clouds at times, but the long-range futurecast puts it very nicely throughout Sunday morning as well. Another round of dry weather, keeping it clear. Temperatures try to moderate back into the mid 40s as another system scoots way out to sea, and then we just look ahead to a quiet period going into the next few days. So this weekend, nice and dry, nice and sunny. We make it to 40 at least each day, but it still stays chilly with lighter winds as that February chill begins to moderate come Sunday and Monday. And there are some milder days on the 7-day. We'll show you that, Ken, coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you so much, Mike. At 7:17, we do have some traffic again. A crash investigation, a traffic signal down on 202, both directions in Whiten Road, Branchburg Township. All lanes are open northbound, but a left lane is closed on the southbound side. Emergency construction still on that sinkhole. I-80 eastbound, exit 34, New Jersey Route 15 in Wharton. All lanes remain closed, everybody being detoured off. That's going to be a case that's going to be in existence for another few weeks at least. We have delays at the Lincoln Tunnel, Center Tunnel eastbound at the New Jersey side, Weehawken. All lanes open, but the travel time is now about 20 minutes from the New Jersey Turnpike, exit 16E to the New York side. And we also have delays, let's see, at the Holland Tunnel, South Tunnel eastbound. All lanes are open, but now the travel time, we're told, is about 15 to 20 minutes from exit 14C. And the GWB lower level eastbound at the New Jersey side, Fort Lee, all lanes are open. Travel time now up to about 25 to 30 minutes. In a surprising turn of events, boxing legend Floyd Mayweather Jr. reportedly looking to step into the world of NFL ownership by potentially buying a stake in the New York Giants. We are joined by Lance Meadow, a national sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. Lance, I bet when you said to our executive producer, Gerald, that I'll come on and help you guys out, you didn't realize we'd be calling you like every day. But thank you again for getting up this morning. We appreciate you getting up. So how significant is this? An athlete of the stature of Floyd Mayweather, for him to look to buy a piece of a football franchise like the Giants.
Well, it's significant because, as you just mentioned, Ken, he's a name. I'm sure tomorrow we're going to hear about some other prominent athlete or entertainer that wants to throw their respective name in the hat as well, given the trend that you were alluding to. But I think what's also notable about Floyd Mayweather is he's got a history of being involved with franchises. And that, to me, is more important than anything else regarding his stature. He has a 20% share of the Minnesota Timberwolves in the NBA. So what that means to me is he understands what it takes to invest in a team. And number two, he understands what it means to be a minority shareholder, where he will have a financial investment in the team, but he knows he's not going to be involved in the day-to-day operation. See, Ken, if the Giants want to bring in another owner, they have to make sure that that owner understands you're going to get a return on your investment, but you're not going to get a seat necessarily in the boardroom to determine the well-being of the X's and O's and personnel. And I think he at least understands that, given his involvement with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
That's fascinating you said that. So it's like it's as if you are a stockholder. You're buying stock in a company. That doesn't mean you run the company. You're buying stock because you trust that we know how to run the company and make money, and we will cut you a check. Otherwise, sit down and stay in your lane. That's basically the deal. And being that he's an astute business person, he knows how to make his money, and that's what he's doing. Because a lot of athletes, as we know in the past, blow their cash after they're out of the business, and they end up dying poor. That was the case years ago. Now I guess they're getting good financial advice.
Well, there's a lot of horror stories that you were hitting on,
Yeah.
Ken, and we could pretty much spend an entire segment on listing all of those prominent athletes that have had financial problems. But yeah, I would think you're right on point, because he understands, once again, what it takes to raise the capital, because he's going to be supposedly a part of a group. It's not going to be him on an island. He has partners. He's made a great deal of money from all of his fights. I don't know if I would follow his philosophy in terms of attacking an opponent in the ring. He likes to dance. He likes to do the slow tango. He's not necessarily an explosive fighter. And the Giants right now need as much explosion as humanly possible, Ken, to jumpstart their offense and get them back to a respectable level. So it's more of a reason why I understand that he can be on the outside looking in and provide financial advice, but not necessarily football advice. But yeah, I think his involvement with Minnesota is what would be attractive. If I'm running the Giants, I would say, okay, he understands the ins and outs, the mechanism of what it takes to be a successful franchise, and he knows he's not going to get in the way. I think the worst thing that any NFL team could do, not just necessarily the New York Giants or any other franchise outside the NFL, is you bring in an owner who wants this to become a popularity stage, and they want to be out there, and they also all of a sudden, little by little, don't want to be in the backdrop, and they want to give the head coach and the general manager their 2 cents. And that's when all of a sudden, hey, it's nice to have another financial involvement in the team, but it becomes more of a distraction and more of a baggage than anything positive that can be brought to your organization.
Yeah, it's not worth the money and the headache, right? Of having to bring
Yeah.
somebody in for whatever small percentage, and then having them out there talking to the press when there's a victory or a loss, or if there's the talk of a trade. That's not their job. Your job is to own a chunk of it, give us the money, and we will give you a profit back. But that's where it ends. So that makes a lot of sense. On the flip side, you can understand why somebody who's going to give 700 or 800 million dollars, and it's not coming out of their direct pocket. Obviously, as you mentioned, it's coming out of a hedge fund, investments, investment companies, et cetera. But nonetheless, you're the face of it. How they would want to have some kind of a say, but that is not what this is about. So here's a question, though. We talked just the other day. You were nice enough to come on and talk about the Manning brothers, Peyton and Eli, wanting to or floating out there the idea of buying a share. Um, would this be a bidding war, or could they just buy their own share? Or you think that the families that own the Giants, the Maras and Tishes, that they would split it up? I mean, where do you see this going?
It's a good question, Ken. I don't think that the NFL, based on the rule that we talked about when I was last on, that was implemented in 2024, wants multiple factions of private equity funds to invest in one team. So I would think, to your point, if the Mannings want to get involved with the Giants, and there's familiarity given Eli's ties, they would most likely be part of Floyd Mayweather's group, as opposed to being a separate entity. And that's possible. You could have the Manning brothers, you could have Floyd Mayweather and other influential individuals, whether they're connected to athletics or something else, and they're part of this private equity fund that comes in with $750 million and gets a 10% share of the New York Giants. I don't think that would be crazy or something that the Maras and the Tishes wouldn't want to be a part of. I think most of these private equity funds are composed of several individuals. It's highly unlikely that it's going to be one person that comes in with all of this capital. Now, I don't know off the top of my head whether the Mannings and the Mayweathers have any ties or relationships, but at the end of the day, hey, money sings a nice tune. So if you're willing to jump on board, right, and you want to invest in this group that can raise about, once again, $800 million, something tells me given the Mannings' ties to football and their close connection to the Giants, I'm sure Floyd would be more than happy to have Eli and Peyton jump on board to be part of this group.
Would make sense, especially if they all agree to be in the background, right?
Yeah.
That hey, it makes raising that kind of capital that much easier because you're kind of dissolving the risk, or I should say, not dissolving, but sharing the risk with other people, and these are other professional athletes. I mean, they're all kind of in the same mindset. Um, would it be a good thing, you think, for the fan base, whether it be the Mannings or Mayweather coming in for an involvement in the Giants? At least would it help kind of increase the chatter and the popularity of the team?
It's funny. I was thinking about that as well, even through the lens of Peyton Manning and Eli Manning. And I think I keep coming back to, Ken, the fact that the Giants are one of the most historical franchises, not just in NFL history, but in sports history. Tim Mara,
Mhm.
John Mara's great grandfather, founded the team in 1925. And then the Tisches came along in the early 1990s. So this franchise has been so well established. I don't know if you bring in a Floyd Mayweather or a Peyton Manning or an Eli Manning, it's going to do anything to lift the popularity or the profile. I think the best example is, listen, the Giants have had their fair share of well-documented struggles over the last few seasons. I don't need to remind you
Mhm.
or your audience about that. Yet the fans continue to show up. They continue to be irritated. They continue to be invested. So does a boxer or a former NFL quarterback change that? Maybe some fans feel, okay, it'll bring new ideas into the fold. But again, they're not bringing in these individuals so they can guide them into who they should take with the third overall pick in the NFL draft. So I think fans need to understand, on the surface, it's nice to have another
Mhm.
name synonymous with the franchise. But I really don't think at the end of the day it's going to do anything to change the trajectory of where this team is going. So I don't know if it really moves the needle. I think, if anything, it helps the ownership because you're getting some strong financial backing. Individuals that have made a lot of money have been successful in their own right. But I don't know if the fans were panicking at this point that the Giants are not in a financially stable situation. That has been well documented that they're fine there. So if this is not going to change anything from a
Mhm.
football decision-making perspective, I don't know if it's going to have that much of an impact on the overall pathway of the franchise as well as the mindset of Giants fans.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Lance. I mean, how many people form their opinions of their sports teams when they're kids and they look up to their parents who are fans, right? So you go to the game with dad or uncle or brother or mom or whatever, and that sort of gets ingrained in your head. This is the team I like. You form your allegiance, and no matter what, even if they're the worst. Hey, let me just say this: my dad has been a Mets fan since day one. That says it all. Okay, so um, that said, we're talking about these exorbitant numbers, 700 million to 800 million for a 10% share. How does that compare? You mentioned this last time we were on about this. How does that compare to some of the transactions for NFL teams in the past?
Well, the Giants have been valued in the 7.3 to 7.5 billion dollar area, and that's based on Forbes's latest projections. Dallas, the Cowboys are the standard at $10 million. So if we're talking about, again, the NFL capping it off at 10%, the Giants are a top 5 valued franchise. So, I mean, that's a nice chunk of change to get $750 million to $800 million from a group. I don't think other franchises are going to be in that ballpark if they're outside the top 5 or going further down. So the Giants, as I mentioned, are in a very healthy situation for a team that was founded in 1925. I want to say, Ken, the Giants, the Mara family purchased the team for $500. Okay, let's put that in
Mm.
perspective. $500
Wait,
in
what?
1925. Yeah, to all of a sudden now it's worth $7.5 billion. I wish I was alive and around. I would have had you come and join my private equity fund back then.
Yeah, but back then I would have had about 37 cents to my name. That would have been about
Well,
it.
there you go.
Not that I have
Yeah.
much more today. I did not know that statistic. What a statistic. That's amazing. Thank you for that. And do you think this is now going to be a trend? Because if you all this being floated out there, all these athletes wanting to buy a chunk, I mean, do you think that this is what we're going to be seeing now? Athletes and celebs just to raise their own image, if you will, so they could have bragging rights at parties. Do you think that this is going to be the wave of the future?
I do see it being a trend. I don't know if it's so that they could brag to their friends at a party per se, Ken. I think it has more to do with if you look at investments, and by the way, I'm going to preface my statement saying I'm not a financial advisor. So listeners, viewers, just, stroll with me here as opposed to taking all my advice. But I think it's fair to say sports franchises are a very safe bet. Because if you look at the NFL specifically, which is the most popular sport here in the United States and even building around the world, if you put money in there, you're probably going to get a nice return. And I think that's where most athletes come from. You want the sure thing. I think we're all striving in life. Hey, if I put X amount of dollars in, I'm going to, at worst, see those X amount of dollars back. And I think if you look at the value of franchises, Ken, and I was just talking about the top 5 NFL franchises, the numbers have skyrocketed. They've gone up every single year. You have rarely seen sports franchises dip. So I think that's why you're going to see it be a trend where basketball players, boxers, hockey players, gymnastic stars, you name it, are going to want to invest in it because they know, okay, it's a safe, good bet, and I'm probably at the end of the day going to get a good return. And the plus side is maybe I will be able to go to a few games. Maybe I'll get an attractive parking space. I'll get free popcorn and a hot dog. So those are the perks. But the main perk of all is if I'm going to put hundreds of millions of dollars in, I'm going to make sure that that number is going to progressively increase. And I think it's as safe a bet as you're going to find in terms of investment in this day and age. That's the big selling point to prominent athletes and entertainers right now.
Well, if I had 700 million to invest, I would take that. Not that it's advice. You said clearly it's not financial advice. It's just your own personal opinion. But I would follow that opinion if I had the 700 million. Of course, if the day ever comes, I get 700 million. By that point, the team will be worth 700 trillion. So that would be my luck. But Lance, let me just say, I can't thank you enough for always coming on and always being there for us. You never say no, and I'm not suggesting you ever should. I appreciate you, but there's a reason why you are a national sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. I could listen to your analysis all day. Not only is it brilliant, but you have the greatest voice, and I just appreciate you. I just want to thank you for coming on again, Lance Meadow. Thanks always for joining us.
Well, it's a pleasure being on, and at least now I have one financial client, so that's a good start to my new fund. Thank you, Ken.
Let's go back to the 20s. I'll get my $500 or whatever, and we'll start from there. Lance Meadow, you're awesome. Thank you so much, sir.
You got it. Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care. It is now still 17 degrees. It hasn't budged a degree, and the time is 7:32. Partly cloudy, windy, cold today. Meteorologist Mike Pavetta, I'm just reading what he told me, so he'll tell you the full and authentic Garden State forecast. Plus, we'll take your calls, 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. You are watching on New Jersey Mornings. Please don't go away. very good morning. 17 degrees, 7:35 is our time. Welcome to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, straight to meteorologist Mike Favetta with the windy and cold Garden State forecast. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Ken. I know you love the alliteration that I use. Well, here's another one, the Arctic Assault coming through the Northeast. It's a cold one, and it'll stay cold, not just today, but even through tomorrow and Friday, as a core piece of that Arctic cold swings on through. And this little shape here, it almost looks like the Omega symbol. This is something that the weather models were picking up on last week, tends to hold a lot of these coastal storms back and allows them to kind of dump snow over certain areas for a long period of time, preventing them from zipping out to sea. Problem is, it doesn't last long, and it doesn't time up nicely with the storm that is forecast to stay out to sea. So we don't get snow as a result, and then what's left in its place is some real cold. Well, that cold keeps on going right through tomorrow with the very windy and dry conditions as well, leaving us with just the sun and clouds going into tomorrow as well as Friday. There are no big storms in the forecast, so there could be a few flakes and flurries by the time we get to later this afternoon, especially down in Cape May, Avalon, and Ocean City. You have the best chance of seeing some late afternoon flurries into this evening due to that system, but it barely leaves a coating. I mean, it's so fast. It moves out very quickly. Today's high comes in at 30 degrees. That is 14 degrees cooler than the average high. So we're still running colder, but at least the sun is up nice and early. 6:45 this morning, sunset happening after 5:30 this evening. The wider view showing the sunny weather this morning, clear sky all around, just a few thin clouds working in across southern New Jersey. That's in advance of that snow that comes in later on tonight. And it doesn't last very long, brings back clear sky tomorrow, and we stay dry into Saturday. But look at these air temperatures. These are not wind chills. We're still in the teens on Saturday morning. Another round of brutally cold air sticks around. We finally see a little bit of moderation by the afternoon, maybe getting up to 40 degrees, but at least we'll be above freezing after all of that threat of some snow. So there goes the system quickly out to sea, bringing the mess of snow and heavy rain. What's left here is kind of carved out across New Jersey. As I'll show you coming up next, the secondary system that sits high in the atmosphere kind of gets pulled out with the surface low, and that basically gives us the clear sky and a chance of a few flurries by tomorrow afternoon. That is it. It is pretty quiet going into Friday, and the reinforcing shot of clear weather comes in for Saturday and Sunday as well. Nice way to enjoy the weekend. As far as the 7-day forecast, looking forward to the slightly milder weather that comes in going into Saturday and Sunday, making up to 43 degrees by the end of the weekend. And whoa, look at that, all the way to 50 by Tuesday. That'll feel great, especially in northern New Jersey where it's been so cold each and every morning. Now, South Jersey also enjoys the warmth as well. Again, a better chance of some snow for you later on in the day to this evening. And again, possible flurries tomorrow. But Friday, Saturday, and Sunday sees that gradual trend that takes us from the 30s as early as Friday all the way up to 50 degrees again by Tuesday. So a pleasant feel, Ken, going into next week as we finally maybe we can start to come out of our caves and enjoy a little bit of a milder feel.
Like the groundhog.
Like a groundhog, sure.
There you go. All right, Mike.
Love
Thank
that
you so
rodent.
much, sir. Yes, I love our little rodent, especially roasting them on a. But
Oh,
that's
yes.
just another. They taste good. Little rosemary, olive oil, garlic. It's not
No, I'll
bad.
take porchetta. Thank
All
you so
right,
much.
sir. Thank you very much. It is 7:39 and 17 chilly degrees right now. Let me ask Pam something. Pam, am I breaking up on your end? And I am, huh? So we may have to do a little reboot. All right, so we may do that. Let me just do a little reading, and then we'll see how this technical works out. So you're doing it with us, folks. In terms of traffic, we do have New Jersey Transit offering limited service on Raritan Valley on the Raritan Valley line. That's after yesterday's freight train derailment. So be aware of that. We have a disabled truck on the GWB lower level eastbound at exit 1B, which is Harlem River Drive in Manhattan. One left lane is blocked. Also, emergency construction still on that sinkhole I-80 in Wharton at exit 34. Eastbound again, all lanes are closed. Everybody's being detoured off. That's going to be for a few more weeks at least that we know of. We have crash investigation and traffic signal down on 202 both directions at Whiten Road in Branchburg Township. All lanes are open northbound, but a left lane is closed on the southbound side. And we have delays on Route 29 northbound, north of 295 in Hamilton Township to north of South Warren Street in Trenton. All lanes open, but the delays are just due to morning drive volume. And finally, delays on the New Jersey Turnpike exiting the interchange 15E, Route 1 and 9 in Newark. Again, that is all due to volume. 7:40 is our time. Our temperature 17 degrees. And an ordinance that would have allowed police to fine and potentially jail homeless people for sleeping and defecating on the streets of Morristown and public spaces too. Well, this ordinance that they were going to vote on has been pulled before it could ever get a vote. The proposal was dropped days after Morristown's Liberal Democrat mayor and council introduced the ordinance without much discussion last week. Before the council ever had a chance to vote on the ordinance, Morristown Mayor Timothy Doherty said that advocacy efforts, in other words, people who complained to him, led him to ask the council to reconsider it. So if you want to live in tents on the streets of Morristown and do your business in public in front of the children, have at it. And if you live there and you want to complain about it, don't complain to Mayor Doherty, talk to the so-called public advocates. Oh, but if you are a day late paying those exorbitant Morristown property taxes, or if you're a business downtown and you're worried about why you can't get customers in the door because of the homeless camped out in front, well, you're going to be in trouble. It's all on you. Think about that. 7:41, a woman is lucky to be alive this morning after getting shot in the face with a crossbow. Police say a Hasbrook Heights man was charged with attempted murder after allegedly shooting the woman in Saddlebrook Monday evening. Investigators say 53-year-old Raymond Carey was arrested in Pine Beach, Ocean County yesterday. The woman was in her Saddlebrook business Monday evening when the attack occurred, not known what led up to that attack. 7:41, based on a recent tweet on X, it appears that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez may be worried about border czar Tom Homan's recommendation that the Justice Department investigate AOC for aiding criminal migrants. AOC reportedly has been coaching illegals on what to do to evade ICE agents if they come looking for them. Homan says that sure looks like impeding police work, and some in the know say the Congresswoman is genuinely concerned that she could be arrested. If you're wondering how much Doge has saved U.S. taxpayers so far, according to their website, doge.gov, they've saved us $55 billion. It's just been a few weeks. They have many, many agencies to audit yet. If you would like to see exactly how they have saved the money, it's detailed on the website. Again, it's doge.gov, doge.gov. For those who say 55 billion is nothing, shame on you. You can give me 55 billion, I'll take it. And for those who say that is nothing compared to the trillions we're in debt, you're probably not really wrong, but you got to start somewhere. We have a lot to go. And remember, they still have to hit the Department of Defense, and that is a $1 trillion plus budget. So we'll see how much they could find in waste there. And you know there's a lot. 7:43, the top criminal prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., Denise Chung, resigned yesterday after refusing to obey orders from her Trump-appointed superiors. Chung had been asked to oversee an investigation into an EPA funding decision during the Biden administration and then used DOJ's powers to freeze that funding. She refused the order. Instead, she resigned. And convicted FBI murderer, Indigenous activist Leonard Peltier, was released from a Florida prison yesterday after former President Biden, I should say, commuted his life sentence. Peltier was serving that sentence in the 1975 killings of two FBI agents, and his release from prison infuriated law enforcement officials who believe in his guilt. Many Native Americans believe that Peltier was innocent, and they believe that he was unjustly imprisoned. The 80-year-old must continue serving his sentence, though, under home confinement. And an al-Qaeda-linked terrorist has been killed in an airstrike, according to CENTCOM in a post on X. U.S. Central Command says that they conducted a precision airstrike in northwestern Syria, targeting and killing a senior finance and logistics official in the terrorist organization Huras al-Din, an al-Qaeda affiliate. CENTCOM went on to warn terrorists around the world that they should be watching their backs. Finally, Kentucky Fried Chicken is leaving Kentucky. Yes, it's still going to be called Kentucky Fried. Well, they call it KFC. They don't really call it Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore. They officially changed it to KFC. They're moving their headquarters where it was originally from its inception in Louisville, Kentucky to Plano, Texas. The relocation is part of their parent company, Yum Brands' plan to have two corporate headquarters, one in Plano and the other in Irvine, California. Yum owns KFC and Pizza Hut, and their global teams are already based in Plano, as well as Taco Bell and the Habit Burger and Grill, whose teams are located in California. It is 17 degrees at 7:44 when On New Jersey Mornings continues. Meteorologist Mike Vetta returns with a cold and blustery Garden State forecast. On New Jersey Mornings comes right back. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. 7:46 is our time. We're taking your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. Are you like me? Did you love printed newspapers? I used to subscribe to 3 or 4, depending on where I lived. There was nothing like the smell of the ink and, opening up the paper and sitting there and circling stuff you wanted and cutting out stories you wanted to save. And those days are sadly gone for too many people around the country. We're going to have a local journalist on who's going to tell us all about the future of print journalism and what it means for those of us here in New Jersey. A cold and blustery day on tap, right to meteorologist Mike Favetta with the Garden State forecast. Good morning to you, Mike.
Good morning, Ken. Yeah, it stays cold, not just today, but even tomorrow and Friday. Still have to keep those gloves close by and then the heavy winter coat, because where you'd expect the brutal cold to be in the upper Midwest, it actually starts to swing through New Jersey by later on this week. And there it is, coming right into the Northeast, bringing us another round of brutal cold with that wind that continues. Now, the wind won't be as harsh as earlier this week, but it's still breezy as this pretty ugly pattern continues. At least the sun is shining and we don't have to deal with any snow thanks to the system staying well far to our south and east later on tonight and to tomorrow. That brings in more clear sky for the weekend as the long-range futurecast puts lots of sunshine overhead throughout our Saturday and Sunday. Any other systems will also stay out to sea, bringing back more clear sky and even milder weather by the time we get to early next week. And we'll take it given how cold it's been. So this weekend's weather stays rather chilly, 40 as this afternoon, as a Saturday afternoon's high, making up to 43 by Sunday. That's average for the last weekend in February. And the good news is it stays nice going into next week. We could be on the heels of 50 degrees as we wrap up the month and welcome in March with open arms, because we all need a little warmth around here beyond the brutal cold that we've been experiencing. We'll tell you more about it coming up. Complete check of your forecast, Ken, in just a few minutes.
All right, Mike, thank you so much. It's 7:48. We do have a little bit of traffic quickly to tell you about. We still have that sinkhole eastbound exit 34 on I-80 in Wharton. That's going to be the case for the next few weeks because it is an old abandoned iron mine and it goes down for about 50 or 60 feet. So that's going to take quite a long time to repair. So if you're headed eastbound on I-80 through exit 34, you're going to have to detour off. I know it's a pain in the neck and it's going to be that way for a few weeks, but they want to do this job safely and properly so you don't have this problem in the future. Also, we have a disabled tractor trailer, New Jersey Turnpike outer roadway southbound, north of interchange 12, Carteret Rawway in Carteret. One right lane is blocked. Crash on the Turnpike outer roadway northbound entrance ramp, interchange 11, Garden State Parkway in Woodbridge Township. One right lane blocked there. We have a disabled tractor trailer on the Turnpike inside entry of interchange 13. That's I-278, the Goethals Bridge in Elizabeth. A center toll lane is blocked. And we also have a crash investigation, a traffic signal down on 202 in both directions at Whiten Road in Branchburg Township. All lanes open northbound, but a left lane is closed southbound. Our time now, 7:49. You know, the landscape of local journalism is undergoing a seismic shift as traditional print newspapers like the Star Ledger and the Jersey Journal have ended their print editions. They're still online, but the old newspaper print is gone. Does this signal the end of local journalism, or is it merely transforming? To shed light on the matter is Mark Pfeiffer, a senior policy fellow at Blaustein Local from Rutgers University's Edward J. Blaustein School of Public Policy. Mark, thank you so much for getting up with us this morning and joining us. We appreciate you being on.
Good morning, Ken. Happy to be here today.
Thank you. And I don't know if you heard me before say, I'm a journalist geek. I was a journalist for 39, 40 years on air in the New York tri-state. And there is nothing to me like, I used to go into Channel 7 in the morning. We would have 7 newspapers. And it excited me because that was humans interacting with humans, right? You saw that work. And it just, I couldn't wait to read page after page. And I'm guessing you're probably the same. So when you see all these print editions going, what goes through your mind?
It's unfortunate. It's regrettable in a lot of ways, but it's something that's happening, and we can't stop it from happening. It's in process. The economy has changed. Digital technology has changed so many things in our lives, from the phones we carry around to access to the world's information at our fingertips. New Jersey's news landscaping is changing, and you mentioned in the opening, traditional newspaper circulation is declining. We've got a brand new ecosystem, and but have digital news outlets that are coming out. Newspapers are evolving. Journalism is evolving. News gathering is evolving, and the challenge right now is to keep it afloat from an economic standpoint. Printing newspapers is very expensive. Lots of people have stopped getting printed newspapers. There's a separate challenge of younger people not following the news, particularly local news. And that's where my concern has been. To me, it's all about how we report on local government. I've spent my entire career dealing with local government in one way or another, as an administrator, as a town administrator, as a state government administrator working with local governments, and now as a researcher focusing on local governments. Local journalism is essential. We can't do without it.
And Mark, I stand up and I applaud you. I could not agree with you more. And I think until people, and it'll be too late by this point, but until people suffer the consequences of not having anyone monitor what's happening locally and reporting on it, then later what will happen is people are going to find out their neighborhoods are being bulldozed, big buildings are being built. There's a rapist who lives across the street, and they never heard about it. Why? Because there was no local journalism to tell them about it. Their mayor is corrupt. Their governor is corrupt. Why don't I know about it? Because you refuse to take 2 seconds out of your day to read about it. We took the time to print it. We took the time to put it online. You were too busy playing on TikTok. That's what incenses me. And it used to be something that was sort of civics 101 that was taught. Parents sat down and said, no, this is part of your routine. You need to get caught up. It was taught in schools. And now it seems that like the phone is just a toy for kids, that they're not told that, no, you should be researching, you should be reading. I mean, when I used to speak in schools, Mark, and again, I think you and I are exactly on the same page when it comes to this. I used to tell people the history of the newspaper. It goes back to the temple in Jerusalem. When they stood in the temple and people would gather on the Shabbat, they would tell you what's going on. It wasn't just the religious service. They would tell you, here's what's happening, right? And then it evolved when you had the Protestants come to the U.S., what is now the U.S., you had the town crier. Even in Europe, you had the town crier who would gather people and ring the bell, and people would come together and they would literally read what was happening. That gave birth, once we had the printing press, to the newspaper. And then we've evolved to the point of electronics, but it's almost like now that we make it so easy, we throw it away. And that's what drives me nuts. It's like we made it, we're spoon feeding people, and now they just want to ignore it.
Yeah, it's a problem. I grew up in a way that you did. I grew up in Sussex County, up in Newton, and I clearly remember in 6th grade social studies we did a unit on how to read the New York Times. We had a little pamphlet. We had a handbook on it, and the teacher showed us how to do the Times fold and read the news. That was important. Yes, we've lost civic education. It's coming back. The state passed a law that's going to require civic education throughout K-12 these days, and that's going to be kicking in soon. So we've got But we've got people in the middle right now who don't look at news, or who expect to look at it on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. That needs to evolve. Most of our newspapers that are around still, we still have a handful of daily newspapers that are active. They're posting their stories on social media so people can watch them. But it's people need to start looking at it and understand and appreciate that. To understand what's going on in their community, they need to go out and look for stuff as well. It's not just all going to be fed to them. Granted, algorithms like on TikTok and Facebook and other places now will start to feed you information, but you have to start looking at it first. So it's, in a sense, digital users need to subscribe to news. They also need to start looking at the places where you have to pay for it. Paywalls are
Right.
coming up. Newspapers need to survive. News reporting needs to survive. Journalists need to be paid. There's a lot of experimentation going on. We've got a group called the New Jersey Civic Information Consortium, which is funding lots of digital native news sites and helping journalists to get the word out. But at the end of the day, news consumers, citizens, our residents, need to pay attention and seek out what's going on in their community, because if they don't do it, they're not going to know what's going on. And that list of horribles that you mentioned at the outset are the things that are going to happen. And I'll throw in the one thing you didn't mention is that your taxes start going up. Unless
It's true.
people are watching and paying attention to it, local elected officials may not have the sense of accountability that they would otherwise have. And I say that
I
coming
think it's
from
already
local
there.
government as an administrator. In a lot of
Yeah,
cases,
I
it
think it's
is,
already
but
there. I'm sorry to step on you. I'm sorry, Mark, but I think you nailed it right there, and thank you for bringing that up, because I think already a lot of local officials are there, and they think, "Oh, really? You don't threaten me." Like when a reporter asks them questions, they don't feel. There used to be that trepidation. Oh, I don't want to talk to this reporter because he or she is going to out what my plans are, and I think that trepidation is gone. You just that was a home run. You nailed it right there. And it's this is why it's so important. And what gets me is so many kids they'll ask mom and dad for the credit card. They'll buy a widget for $20, and the idea of paying 50 cents for an article or $2 a month to get actual news from real journalists, to them that's antithetical. Like, well, I don't want to pay for that. It's free. Why should I pay for that? It's like, if you want quality news and real information, pay a few dollars. I go out of my way. If I'm in the airport or at a train station, I buy the print edition because I want to
yeah.
help the newspaper to survive. So but thankfully, as you said, that civics will be taught once again in schools. But yeah, there's a whole generation in between now that I feel is lost when it comes to local news.
It is, and our media outlets are starting to figure out how they can address that, and how they can reach that particular audience. It's different types of reporting. It's local news plus its features. It's lifestyle reporting. That's becoming more and more important, and it's
Mhm.
useful. So people need that. But I just want to go back for a second. I come
Yes,
from
sir.
local government as a local government official. It's not all as bad as you think it is, but in part, over the years, journalists also have to be responsible as well in not doing those gotcha moments, and working with
True.
local officials fairly and honestly, so they can work together to get the news, and so people understand what the community is doing. And that's important.
Well,
So yes,
I
there can be
confess
those
as an
moments too, but
on-air. Yeah, you're right. As an
yeah,
on-air reporter, you literally that's almost like how you make the notch in your belt. And sadly, too many of these aggressive, in your face, it's all about going back to the news director and saying, "Look what I got. Look at this video," so they could put a promo on TV and show the poor government official who's, they're just walking to go to a vote. They're not trying to be
yeah,
confrontational with you. Why are you being confrontational with them? If you schedule an appointment or you walk up to them nicely, most of them will stop and talk to you, but that whole like deer in the headlights moment, that's what they want. They want to destroy a career. And stop it. A lot of public officials, they don't make a lot of money. They're 99% of them are honest. It's unfortunate that
yep,
the 1% who aren't are the ones who get the press. And just because we only have about 30 seconds left, I just want to ask, what about legal notices? It used to be that the government required you to make legal notices. What happens if you don't have print?
Yeah, well, I've been an advocate for that. I've had some stories run in an op-ed run, and part of the report I did at the Bloustein School is about legal ads and the necessity for them to continue to be operated by newsprint, by the fourth estate, government agencies publishing their own legal ads get less coverage and less attention from people. And there's starting to be some evidence from other parts of the country where that doesn't work. You need that independent reporter that can validate, maintain the integrity, provide a historical archive that these things are done. In New Jersey, the legislature is taking the issue up, and I've been advocating for the creation of a task force of experts who can study the issue. We don't do things the way we did 100 years ago. We've been doing the same thing with legal ads since that time. And we need to look at how legal ads should be constituted in a digital environment. And we need to figure that out. We need to spend a little time working that out, and also ensuring that newspapers, particularly community newspapers where most legal ads go, they're an important source of revenue, and that needs to be maintained for them to remain solvent. So there's some give and take that has to happen on both sides.
With you 100%. Mark Pfeiffer, fellow at Blaustein Local from Rutgers University's Edward J. Blaustein School of Public Policy. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you so much for coming on. Please don't be a stranger. We'd love to have you back on.
Thank you, Ken. It's been great, and it was a great job. Thank you. Happy to help out.
Thank you, Mark. You too. Thank you. Have a great day, sir. It is 8 o'clock. When we come back, meteorologist Mike Favetta says better bundle up. Another windy, cold days in store. We'll have the Garden State forecast, and we're taking your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. You're watching On New Jersey Mornings, streamed on ONNJ.com, Roku, Fire TV, News on Samsung TV Plus, Apple TV, YouTube, Facebook, and X, and now live on Twitch. Just go to twitch.tv/OnNewJersey. We're coming right back. Good morning. It's 8:02. Welcome to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, taking your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. In the meantime, another cold and windy day. And like I say it with the gravelly voice, we head to meteorologist Mike Favetta, a check of the Garden State forecast. Good morning, Mike.
Ken, we're moving the needle in the right direction. We've warmed up 2 degrees since we started the show an hour ago. How about that? Yeah, getting warm in here. So get out the sandals, the t-shirts. Yeah, well, even by next week, we'll only get 50. But any degree helps, especially where we've been sitting in the teens statewide across New Jersey. And those winds are still gusting upwards of 10 to 20 miles per hour. That brings the wind chill this morning down into the single digits. Feels like 6 degrees at 8:03 this morning in Toms River. It's a cold one, running about 3-4 degrees cooler, 5 degrees cooler than yesterday at this time. So throughout this afternoon, it doesn't warm up all that much despite the beautiful amount of sunshine. It stays at or below the freezing mark. But by this evening, as some clouds try to work in, and what you see here, the shades of blue, this is the snow that attempts to fall in southern New Jersey, but the system is so far out to sea, maybe only a few flurries reach the ground. No accumulation statewide. As the whole system pulls away, we welcome in another round of clear sky to start off tomorrow. Now, the back end of the system, the spin, if you will, in the upper atmosphere, may shake out a few flurries by tomorrow afternoon, but even that should not accumulate, and we're back to the cold, clear weather again for Friday. So it's all about the chill, as it's just too cold to snow here in the Garden State going through today, tonight, as well as tomorrow. The next few days featuring that clear sky going into Friday and Saturday starts to warm us up. It's the beginning of a milder trend that adds a few degrees each and every day, taking us into the 50s as soon as next week. We'll tell you all about that with the 7-day forecast, Ken. It's coming up in a few minutes.
All right, thank you so much, sir. It is now a balmy, wow, 18 degrees. Look at that, just shooting up there. 8:05 is our time, and we do have some traffic information to tell you about. Once again, as of just 2 minutes ago, we're told if you're headed out to JFK, some people are catching flights from there. I know most people stay within New Jersey, but if you do have to head to JFK, apparently their main parking lot, and this is important for people driving out. A lot of people, if you're headed there from New Jersey, you drive there. Their main lot, which is Terminal 4 Parking Blue, they call it, and that's 96% occupied. So you may want to look for outside parking because that's where most people go. I've gone to that lot. We have a crash on the Garden State Parkway southbound at exit 147. That's Clinton Avenue in East Orange. One left lane is blocked. Also, a disabled tractor trailer on the Turnpike Outer Roadway northbound south of exit 12 or interchange 12. That's in Rahway and Carteret and Woodbridge Township. One center lane blocked there. Crash on the Turnpike Outer Roadway northbound entrance ramp by interchange 11, Garden State Parkway in Woodbridge. One right lane blocked. We also have that construction still going on I-80. In fact, we're going to be talking more about that just in a minute, but we still have that problem with the sinkhole I-80 eastbound at exit 34 in Wharton, all lanes closed and detoured. And we have an expert who's going to talk about that in just a few seconds. And a crash investigation and traffic signal down on 202 in both directions at Whiten Road in Branchburg Township. All lanes open northbound, one left lane closed southbound. Finally, NJ Transit is offering limited service on Raritan Valley Line after yesterday's freight train derailment. So you're going to have to take a bus. It's going to be packed, or you could still take the limited service on NJ Transit, but just know it's going to be packed and give yourself some extra time. 8:06, an ordinance that would have allowed police to fine and potentially jail homeless people for sleeping and defecating on the streets and in public spaces in Morristown has been pulled. The proposal was dropped just days after Morristown's Democrat mayor and council introduced the ordinance without much discussion last week. Before the council had a chance to even vote on the ordinance, Morristown Mayor Timothy Doherty said advocacy efforts led him to ask the council to reconsider the measure. So the problem now is there's nothing to stop people from camping out on the streets of Morristown. A woman is lucky to be alive this morning after getting shot in the face with a crossbow. Police say a Hasbrook Heights man was charged with attempted murder after allegedly shooting the woman in Saddlebrook Monday evening. Investigators say 53-year-old Raymond Carey was arrested in Pine Beach, Ocean County yesterday. The woman in her Saddlebrook business Monday evening when this occurred. Not yet known what caused the attack. It is now 8:07. Again, that massive sinkhole we told you about on I-80 in Wharton continues to plague the region. Crews have discovered an astonishing 90 underground holes nearby, with the fear, of course, that any one of them could open up. Joining us to talk about this is William Croth, who's the executive director of the Sterling Hill Mining Museum and a noted mining historian. Mr. Croth, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for getting up early with us this morning.
My pleasure.
So, first off, let me just say an aside. You got to go see the museum that you run. That is the coolest looking museum ever. And before we get off this morning, I want you to tell everybody your website and how people can go see it, because this is, I don't care if you're a kid or an adult, it is a cool place to go. It's a place that everyone's going to want to see and take pictures. So that aside, I had to gush because I looked at video of what you do and it's fascinating. Getting back to this, thank you for indulging me. Can you explain why there are so many underground holes beneath Route 80 and how did the engineers in the 60s and 70s, how did they not know and take care of this problem?
Yeah, we don't usually think of New Jersey as a historically place of mining. But even during the Revolutionary War, there were over 400 mines in the state of New Jersey, mostly northern New Jersey. They were iron mines mostly and copper mines. Particularly up here where I am, we run a zinc mine for tours and science learning. But yeah, it's Swiss cheese under the ground there. Typically, when an interstate highway is built, they do take borings along the center line, but those borings are about 750 to 800 feet apart. So they could have easily missed these. Now that they're looking for them, they're finding quite a few of these voids on.
That's fascinating. See, right there, that says everything. So if they're 750 to 800 feet apart, you could miss 50, 60 holes along the way and never know. And that answers everything. Now, in terms of, I used to live in Florida at one point, and I know sinkholes down there are a different phenomenon because a lot of it is underground water that washes the soil underneath, and then everything collapses in because of that. This is a very different type of sinkhole, right? This is because of previously drilled holes and pathways for mines.
That is correct. So we have man-made issues, and what you had in Florida was a natural issue. Water going through rock actually starts a dissolution process, especially in rocks that are carbonate rocks like limestone. So the water makes the voids, but here it's our own doing, and it speaks to the way that we used to do things, not having any regulations when a mine was closed. You just covered it with whatever you want. You put garbage in it, you name it, and now we're paying the price.
And this was, I mean, this was way back at a time when the concept of an interstate highway did, in fact, the concept of a motor vehicle didn't exist, right? So that was just what they did. The worst that would happen is you take your horse and buggy, and if you rode over it, the horse would probably feel its foot sinking and move away. So they didn't obviously have any malintent at the time, but now we are reaping if you will, the result from this. So now this kind of sinkhole in this case, I know the 40 by 40-foot sinkhole is rather deep. So what can they do to repair it? Is it just a matter of getting as much rock and fill as possible, or do they have to keep going down and seeing how far this thing goes?
It's really hard to properly fill up a tunnel from above. If you have a big excavation, you normally put down lifts of soil, horizontal lifts of soil, and you compact them from the top. And this way, you develop a very uniform and strong, cohesive soil mass. Trying to pack it in from the top in a horizontal or even a vertical tunnel, very, very difficult. The best thing that they've been doing, especially on the shoulder sinkhole, they pump in a very liquid type of concrete remotely where it's safe, and you hope that travels and fills in all the voids. But again, it's quite hit and miss.
Yeah, that's a lot of concrete. I mean, you're talking like World Trade Center quantity concrete to fill that. If that goes way down and deep, that's a crazy, crazy concept. And now there have only been 11 of the 90 holes that have been discovered. So 11 of them have been filled so far, but 90 that they know of. How long is this going to take before you think they could safely get Route 80 safely repaired and reopened?
Well, that's the problem. It's a delicate balance between safety and convenience. It's an interstate highway. It goes from New York to San Francisco. This is a main
Mhm.
artery of the United States. So you got to keep it open, but safety is paramount. So it is a delicate balance, and I would not want to be the engineer on that project right now.
Needless to say, right? And it's like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. You're trying to do the job to keep everybody safe, and meanwhile, people in their cars are just saying, "Can you open the roadway?" Well, it's like, yeah, we just don't want your car to go 90 feet down. That's all. We just got to keep you alive. How do you think we could prevent future incidents like this? I mean, does it make sense that people who run the interstate highways should go around with detectors and make sure there are no holes in areas smaller than 750 feet apart now? Is that what will be the case, you think?
Well, we we have to look at areas where there has been previous mining, and I think when this is all over, they're going to have to hire a consulting firm and look at all the historical records. And then from the shoulder, without interfering with traffic, they could do borings. These are 2-inch boreholes that can go down easily 100 feet. Do it diagonally and just develop a sense of security regarding that stretch of the highway, especially where there was historically active mining.
And is there any danger to the workers there right now? I mean, or obviously they're going to take as much care as possible, but this could be if this thing goes so deep and they don't know exactly how far this thing goes down. Are these workers in any danger?
Well, a little bit. I'll say that a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah, and they're trying their best, and it's bitter cold. I mean, we just want it done, but this is a lot of work. At this point, are there technologies that can, other than the boring, is there any kind of electronic technology, like a sonar type technology that they could use that might be faster, that they could use to see if there are more gaps underground, if you will?
They have ground penetrating radar, and they
Oh,
have different types of where you develop energy on the surface, and then you see the reflected energy that could tell you a void. They have various technologies along with radar, but it runs on the similar principle of reflecting back density.
but that takes time and money, and there's all we forget that we have thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of interstate highway in this country, more than any other country on the planet. So that's a lot of work. But obviously, nobody wants to see a sinkhole, and we're just very lucky nobody has gotten hurt. Especially the size and depth of this thing that people are not hurt and very much alive. With just 30 seconds left, what would you like to tell if you were speaking on behalf of the state, and I know you're not, but you're just kind to come on for us as an expert. But if you could tell the average motorist who's a little uptight about this, what would you tell them?
Um, a little bit delay is now worth it compared to the safety aspect. If this isn't done, uh, people are going to slow down in that area, knowing of this possibility, and then you're going to have traffic jams for the next couple of years as people continue to remember this is an uncertain area. So the best thing is fix it now for safety, fix it now for future traffic jams. Uh,
Amen.
they'll get it right.
Amen. Now, before we let you go, I will not let you go until you tell us more about the Sterling Hill Mining Museum. Such a cool looking place. How long have you been there, and what's the website? Tell me about it because everyone has got to check this place out.
So the Sterling Hill Mining Museum was developed in the early 1990s. We salvaged a zinc mine, a world recognized zinc mine. What makes us so famous, and when you come in down our driveway, it says like no other place on earth. That is not hyperbole. We are world famous for our minerals that glow in the dark. Our minerals do a phenomena called fluorescence. We are the world fluorescing mineral capital. And come here, and the kids go crazy. A lot of field trips from schools in the tri state area come here every day, learn about science. But we have two museums. We have a walk through our underground mine, which is very safe. Our mine goes through solid rock that is stronger than concrete. So we don't have to worry about soil moving. Our rock is supported, and our mine was properly backfilled before they closed it up. But we reopened it. It's a great place. 2 hour tour. Right now, we have tours Saturdays and Sundays at 1 o'clock. Any schools, any private group, 15 people or more, will give you a tour anytime. It's a 2 hour tour, but no one ever complains. It's fascinating.
I'm going to be there. You talk about schools and students. This 57-year-old can't wait to go check it out. Just looking at some of the video online, it looks unbelievable. And just what is your website, sir?
It's sterlinghill.org, www.sterlinghill.org. And you can get our phone number, make a call. We're here every day. And we're a nonprofit educational foundation. And it's great to see the kids get that spark, that love of science. So bring your kids here, bring your classes here. You will not be disappointed.
I'm sad to say, as a New Jersey resident since 2002, that I was unaware of you. You're going to get tired of seeing my face there because I'm going to bring every friend and relative from out of town. In fact, our director, Pam, says it's awesome. She's been there. So you will see me there. And I appreciate what you do. And I thank you so much for coming on. William Croth, Executive Director of the Sterling Hill Mining Museum. Great place to visit. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Please come back again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You bet, sir. Okay, it is 8:19 right now. When we come back, meteorologist Mike Favetta tells us it's cold and it's going to stay cold for at least a couple of days. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. He'll give you all the details with the Garden State forecast when On New Jersey Mornings continues. Don't go away. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. It is 17 degrees at 8:21. Now to meteorologist Mike Favetta with a blustery Garden State forecast. Good morning to Mike.
Good morning, Ken. It's a cold one and it stays chilly, not just today, but tomorrow again and Friday. We finally see a little bit of warmth come in by Sunday, but it takes its time. That cold and windy weather remains all today, and it lasts with the very dry air. You notice how dry kind of the back of your hands feel, maybe your lips feel dry. It's just that dry without much moisture in the atmosphere at all. And the sun and clouds that continues to dry us out as well, keeps things quite clear through each afternoon. And there are no storms in the forecast, so it stays quiet weather-wise beyond the cold and the wind. A couple of clouds returning later on this evening in southern New Jersey, and maybe a few flurries south of Atlantic City through Ocean City, Avalon, and Cape May. But beyond that, it's ultimately a flurry. There's no accumulation with today and tonight's system, as it's simply too cold. We are 14 degrees below our average high, where we should be 44 degrees. We should be adding on a few degrees each and every day in the long term, the climate, but that really doesn't happen at least until next week, because weather is variable, changes day to day, and you'll feel it with those temperatures plummeting back down into the single digits. So with the future cast showing cold air sticking around throughout tonight, with the Saturday morning forecast staying in the teens statewide, we'll start our weekend at 18 degrees in Newark, 22 in Long Branch, and 18 in Trenton. Not really warming up into above freezing territory until we get to Saturday afternoon. That's where we'll finally climb into the low 40s. So here's all the clear sky, and this high is preventing that storm from impacting us here in New Jersey. Notice how the storm is basically carving out the entire state, because the secondary piece of the system is in the upper atmosphere here, which is why you see the shade of blue. It tries to give us a few flurries tomorrow afternoon, but most of the energy just rushes out to sea and doesn't really impact us at all. So with that dry weather around throughout Saturday and Sunday, it's a quiet period going forward. Beyond the cold, beyond the wind, which actually quits by Saturday, we look forward to a nice dry period. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, No storms on the horizon. Temperatures climb each and every afternoon into the upper 40s and low 50s. Looks very pleasant even going into this weekend. I think that the shore points will see a little bit of a decrease in the wind as well for Saturday and Sunday. But even for you, climbing into the upper 40s and low 50s, Ken, that'll feel nice in comparison. Like, get out the beach wear by Tuesday of
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah, beachwear. There you go. If you're a seal in Alaska, maybe. But thank you
But
very much.
you always see the young folk like those in high school. They still wear flip flops to school. When as soon as it gets into the 50s. So I have a feeling you'll see
when I'm down in Florida and it's in the low 70s, I have a jacket on, just so you know.
that.
That's me. Anyway, Mike, thank you so much. We'll check back with you. I'm with you, pal. It is 8:24 right now, 17 degrees, and just a little update on the weather, on the traffic rather. We have a crash still on the Garden State Parkway southbound at exit 147. That's Clinton Avenue in East Orange. A left lane is blocked. Crash on the New Jersey Turnpike Outer Roadway northbound entrance ramp at interchange 11 at the Garden State Parkway in Woodbridge. We have one right lane blocked there. Still have that problem at exit 34 eastbound on I-80 in Wharton because of the sinkhole we just talked about. So you're being detoured off I-80, and that's causing some big problems, and that'll be there for a few more weeks. And NJ Transit offering limited service on the Raritan Valley line after yesterday's freight train derailment, still causing problems there. A lot of people taking buses, and the buses are all packed, so beware of that. 825, a mysterious cult leader and some followers were arrested Monday in Maryland, but it's the details of the story that really make the story. Police say Jack Lasota headed up a transgender vegan cult made up of computer scientists. You got all that? And apparently they helped to fake the leader's death in 2022. Also arrested were two of Lesoto's followers, Daniel Blank and Michelle Zajko, a person of interest in the double murder of her parents. Their deaths are two of four linked to the cult, which is based around Lesota, who previously went by the name Ziz online. The other two are an elderly landowner in California, and you'll recall a few months back we talked about a Border Patrol agent killed in a shootout with another member of the group in Vermont. That was back on January 20th. Well, members of this cult were known to have worked for major computer companies and on Wall Street. They were super, super smart. We're told many of them are on the autism scale. Most are on gender changing hormones. So, this is a very specific cult of very specific people. We're told they're all estranged from their families. They are anti sex, and they practice a strange method of sleeping similar to hypnosis called unhemispheric sleep, where you sleep with one eye open and you're in a state of constant exhaustion. So go figure. Note that the legacy media has not reported one word about this. Something like this you would have thought would have been heard everywhere. Not a word. Why? It seems whenever there's crimes connected to transgenderism, you don't hear a word from legacy media. 827, Pope Francis has privately told those close to him that he may not survive an ongoing health scare that has him hospitalized. A report late Monday evening said the 88-year-old pontiff, who is being treated for double pneumonia, and it's an infection of multiple viruses in both lungs. He's at a hospital in Rome. He is rushing to, quote, tie up loose ends ahead of the battle to succeed him. The outlet that published this information said that Francis has been suffering from intense pain in recent days, although he initially resisted going to the hospital at all until he was told in no uncertain terms that if he stayed at the Vatican, there was no way he would survive. Senate Republicans will vote this week on a budget blueprint that would unlock a key part of President Trump's legislative agenda. GOP members in the upper chamber have been moving quickly to advance their plan, which includes border, energy, and defense policies, while House GOP leaders work to unite their conference around a package that also includes tax cuts. Under the Senate Republicans' proposal, lawmakers would come back later this year to make changes to the tax code. In a separate bill, the two aides will need to reconcile their strategies in order to eventually pass a bill under the rules of what is called budget reconciliation. 828, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced a nationwide and international multi-million-dollar ad. This campaign warns illegal aliens to leave our country now or face deportation with the inability to return to the United States. The international version warns criminal illegal aliens not to come to America and break its laws, or they will be hunted down and deported. Take a look.
I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for securing our border, for deporting criminal illegal immigrants, and for putting America first. President Trump has a clear message for those that are in our country illegally. Leave now. If you don't, we will find you, and we will deport you. You will never return. For too long, weak politicians left our borders wide open. They flooded our communities with drugs, human trafficking, and violent criminals. They put American lives at risk. Well, those days are over. If you leave now, you may have an opportunity to return and enjoy our freedom and live the American dream. But understand this. Under President Trump, America's borders are closed to lawbreakers. Follow the law, and you'll find opportunity. Break it, and you'll find consequences. The choice is yours. America welcomes those who respect our laws, because a strong nation is a safe nation.
Those ads will run on radio, broadcast, and digital in multiple countries. 8:30, the S&P 500 closed at a record high yesterday after stocks rallied seconds before the closing bell as investors shook off headwinds on the global trade and inflation fronts. The Dow Industrial Average added 10 points to finish the session, 44,556. Energy was the best performing sector in the S&P 500. Tech stocks also ticked higher. It is 17 degrees at 8:30 when ONNJ Jersey Mornings returns. We'll take your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. Plus, meteorologist Mike Favetta returns with a full Garden State forecast, another cold and blustery day on tap. ONNJ Jersey Mornings will be back in a minute. A very good morning. Another day, another chill, if you will, for New Jersey. It is now 17.5 degrees at 8:31. We go to meteorologist Mike Favetta with the Garden State forecast. Good morning, Mike. I'm dreaming Florida thoughts.
Yeah, it's just something to keep you warm. I mean, every morning just seems to getting colder, and that'll be the case again tomorrow. We've been losing degrees each and every morning, especially with the clear sky that you'd think would warm us up. But in fact, at night, when there's a clear sky and the air is so dry, a lot of the heat that's gained throughout the day radiates back into space at night. It's a phenomenon called radiational cooling. And yet here we are starting off each morning with such cold weather. We're at 12 degrees right now in Sussex, all the way as warm as 19 in Newark and Toms River. With that, the gusty winds. It's been quite gusty all throughout the overnight, staying gusty this morning, gusting anywhere from 15 to 20 miles per hour now. And that means a wind chill that's in the single digits across New Jersey. Hey, we're above zero, so that's a plus, but doesn't get much warmer than that today. It'll still feel like it's in the teens much through this afternoon as those winds remain gusty. And here's what I mean with the temperature change each and every day, losing a few degrees. So we keep going in the wrong direction as February keeps on going, with temperatures right now 3 or 4 degrees cooler when they were yesterday at this time. The Futurecast has cold weather sticking around today, but dry weather. Any flurries will stay south of Atlantic City, really just impacting Cape May and the Parkway. Again, flurries, no accumulation there. All of the storm goes out to sea because it's too darn cold for it to snow. We'll be back in the teens and single digits this time tomorrow morning, staying quite chilly through the tomorrow afternoon. Some flurries might come in northern New Jersey tomorrow afternoon as the upper level part of the system swings on through. It's like a fold in the atmosphere and tends to wring out a few flakes. Imagine like a sponge in the atmosphere that's wringed out, and might give us a few flakes or flurries tomorrow afternoon. But beyond that, no accumulation. Maybe a quick coating on the car tops at best, and then it all melts through tomorrow evening. It stays cold throughout Friday as well as Saturday, but we start to see us turn the corner by the time we get to Saturday afternoon, where highs will be back up at 40, and we could see them approach 50 as soon as next week. We'll take another check of that 7-day forecast, Ken. It's coming up in just a bit.
All right, Mike, thank you so much. At 8:33, it is 17 degrees. And in terms of traffic, just a few things to tell you about on the GWB lower level westbound, the Trans-Manhattan Expressway. There is a problem there, right lane blocked. We have a crash on the Turnpike Outer Roadway northbound entrance ramp by interchange 11, the Garden State Parkway in Woodbridge Township. Right shoulder is closed. Of course, still have that problem. Eastbound exit 34 on I-80 in Wharton because of the sinkhole. You are being detoured off of I-80, and that's still causing problems, but it's going to take a few more weeks. And NJ Transit offering limited service on the Raritan Valley line after yesterday's freight train derailment. So give yourselves extra travel time. I know that the buses are going to be pretty packed this morning. 8:34, President Trump has signed an executive order to expand access to in vitro fertilization, or IVF. To discuss what this means for patients facing barriers to the treatment is Dr. Mina Mirholm, an assistant professor at Columbia University Medical Center and a board-certified psychologist and a psychiatrist, excuse me. Good morning, Dr. Mirholm. I do know the difference, and I'm sorry my eyes are blurry at this hour. Good to have you on this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Ken. Good morning.
You bet. And by the way, I've gone online on Instagram and checked out your psychology talks. You are a psychiatrist, a medical doctor. I know you're talking about the psychological issues. It's an amazing thing to listen to you. So anybody who wants to check him out, go check out Dr. Mirholm on Instagram.
Thank
What
you
is
very
this
much.
executive order? Oh, I love the whole topic, so it was wonderful to watch you. What does this executive order mean for patients who are seeking IVF?
So, Ken, 1 in 8 patients right now around the country struggle with infertility, and this can be a long, draining, and expensive process. And only actually 14 states, including New Jersey, have mandates in place to protect coverage by insurance for IVF. And the fortunate thing is that this insurance is mandated in New Jersey, but the unfortunate thing is that even with that, up to 70% of insurances in New Jersey still will not cover it. So, this mandate by President Trump is to change that. Try to ensure one, can we make policies in place over the next 90 days? He's instructed HHS to put things in place that will change that over the next 90 days to protect coverage for IVF and to change the way that the narrative is being put around access to it and availability to it. So this is a really key change that is a welcome change, really nationally, and especially for folks here around us in New Jersey.
Yeah, because when you think about it, so many couples who are suffering, they have so much. I've known couples who've worked for years. They've tried to have babies. They've done everything from eating certain diets and waiting to the certain time of the month, et cetera. And all they want is to have a child, and they've suffered so much. And it just seems so cruel that I mean, IVF is not something that they decide to do lightly, right? This is something that is like the last step for so many couples.
That's exactly what it is. This is a last resort for many folks because it is a long and tedious process. And the unfortunate thing is, once you come to that place where now you're trying and figuring out how to do it, the last thing you want to incur in addition to that is a cost of up to $30,000 if you're not properly covered. So, to add sort of insult to injury there, the emotional pain and the struggle between the couple, where you have 1 in 8 couples are struggling with this, and up to 2% of births around the country now are through AVF, which has been, a great advancement that we've had in medicine. So now the question is, how do you properly cover this? How do you come to a place where it's protected? Because insurance companies still give some difficulty there for couples, and the infertility process can be very draining. I've counseled many couples over the years in this because it can put a huge strain on the relationship itself.
I can imagine. Doctor, from the medical perspective, the biological perspective, 1 in 8, that's a large number. Has that increased over the years? And do we know what's causing infertility to increase if that's the case?
It has increased, and this is one of the areas where we've been looking at over the past couple of decades. One, as you mentioned, some things like lifestyle, what we're eating, what we're consuming, our general overall health. Because a lot of things that we've seen, for example, with the craze with GLP-1s, and we've seen these Ozempic babies because obesity makes it difficult also to conceive and have
Mhm.
rates of conception there. So there have been some things that are related to our overall lifestyle and health. The more chronic illnesses that we're dealing with, the more difficulty that we're seeing in fertility. But in addition to that, the fact now that we're seeing that there are doors that can be open to facilitate the fertility process, we don't want to make those, have greater barriers than they really need to be because couples are really doing everything that they can as far as changing their own lifestyles, making sure that they're in optimal health, making sure they're avoiding substances or things that can deter their own fertility. In addition to that, though, making sure they have proper access to medical care when needed. That's the part the executive order really hones in on.
And doctor, it could it also be that so many people are waiting later? People are worried about careers first, getting established. You know, you think back to my grandparents, maybe your grandparents. My grandmother was 18 and my grandfather was like 24 when they started having kids. They got married and started having kids young. And I guess your body is much more fertile at that point, both male and female, right? Male, I know that male sperm production goes down radically as they get older, and women as well with in terms of their ability to carry children. So does the age thing have an impact?
Age is certainly a factor, and that's something that we've seen culturally change, as you're mentioning here over the years, where folks are just waiting generally later to get into relationships, to start families. And, we are sort of in a better biological position to have children when we're younger. Um, the miraculous part, I guess, of science at this point is that we do have these other advancements, whether it's egg freezing, and sometimes there's been controversy around these processes of sometimes over promising and under delivering because it is an industry that is built in profit. So we want to be able to counsel patients appropriately to say, family planning is on your own time. You don't want to have something too early just for biological advantage. But we also want to be able to say that if you're in a position where you're later on in life and you need assistance, there is options for you there as well. But there's always, I like to empower patients that you have your own things that you can take into your own hands. You want to maximize what you can do from a biological, physiological, social, emotional, spiritual health. You want to be at optimal health any place you can. And then we can see
Mm.
how we can supplement what we can give you as well. Because the healthier you are, the better you can be in a position to get wherever you want to be health wise, whether it's having a child or something else health wise as well.
And doctor, I know that in the past, some of the issues, or one issue that is a real issue for parents to consider if they go this route, is I know that you don't just try to fertilize one egg, right, in a petri dish, if you will. It's you have to do multiple because not all will take. And then you have the possibility of multiple births, right? Or at least that was the case. And forgive me, I'm not a parent, so forgive me, and I haven't explored the route. But is that still a challenge to some couples where they might end up with multiple children with IVF? And is that something that concerns them?
It is a consideration. So there's two parts of this process at least to think about. One is that this is often not a one-time deal because it is a long process that involves both medication, injections, as well as possible multiple cycles. So the actual going through the process is one area where couples are often discouraged, or you might, be at a place where there is, for many folks around in New Jersey in particular, around the country, there isn't an identifiable reason for infertility. There just happens to be, well, you're not getting pregnant. So one part is just the grind essentially of going through multiple
Mm.
cycles of IVF. And the other, as you're mentioning, there is still a risk of multiple births. Actually, coincidentally, I was reading a study this morning where somebody is had some difficulty and is actually suing an IVF clinic because there was a mix-up around the fertilization process. So there's some ethical concerns that go into this. There is some just concerns of the process itself on the couple, and it's very important. I often counsel couples that as you're going through this, really key not just to have good medical care, but good psychiatric care and spiritual care, because in order to have the stamina for this, to make sure that if the first process doesn't go well, you're able to go to the second, and that you're not discouraged by one failure or another. That's really key as you can keep up with this process. But the multiple births is a factor as well.
Mm. Well, Dr. Mina Meerholm, an assistant professor at Columbia University Medical Center, board certified psychologist. So, I did it again. Excuse me. Board certified psychiatrist. So, let's just make it clear. Dr. Meerholm is a medical doctor who is also has his degree in psychology. So, you do both. That's a psychiatrist. And that's the beautiful thing going to a doctor like you is you are a full medical doctor who can prescribe and knows the medical and the biological side as well as the psychological side. And I know that you're very spiritual as well. I'm looking at your Instagram. I know that I have a lot of friends who are Coptic Christians and very devout as well. So it's so nice to have you on, and I hope you join us once again on New Jersey Mornings. And I promise I will get my mouth to properly function and say the word psychiatrist when we have you back. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you, Ken. It was an absolute pleasure, and I really appreciate both the directing for the Instagram page as well as the identifying of Coptic Christians. That means a lot to us as a community, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful, beautiful group that has unfortunately in your home country, your relatives' home country, obviously before you, suffered a lot over the years. And God bless you for being here. It's good to have you on, sir. Have a great day.
You too, sir. Thank
You
you.
bet. Okay. One of the original Christians, of course, for those of you who are Christian, the Coptics, those are the Egyptian Christians that go back 2,000 years. It is 8:44, and when we come back, some changes for users of Google. On New Jersey Morning, tech expert Fisher will join us and tell us what we need to know. Plus, meteorologist Mike Pavetta lets us know that it is still cold outside, but when will it start to warm up? We'll have the full Garden State forecast when On New Jersey Mornings continues in just a minute. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. At 8:47, we go to meteorologist Mike Pavetta with the Garden State forecast. Morning, Mike.
Hey, Ken, it's another cold day today, starting off in the teens, climbing to the 20s, but at least it stays dry. No threat of snow or really cloud cover. And even going into tomorrow, while there might be the potential for a few flakes and flurries, of course the camera doesn't want to work. There will be a few flakes and flurries. See, the weather system really wants to show that snow, but nope, it's going to be another dry period going forward. And the reason for that is because of this upper level system that moves on through. It will try to give us a few flakes tomorrow afternoon, but most of it zips out to sea as these systems do, bringing back another round of dry weather going into tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll see the drought monitor update. It's still showing that extreme drought for southern New Jersey, but just in the last few days, we've seen quite a bit of rainfall, especially with the weekend rain. That allows for less of a rainfall deficit, so I think we'll see some improvement even going forward with the drought looking better into the beginning of March. It's also going to be slightly cooler than average to start off the first week of March as all of that warm weather stays out west, and average chances of precipitation starting off March with our chances being equal. Not too much rain, not too much dry weather. 7-day forecast, a lot of dry weather, especially this weekend where highs climb into the 40s to start, and next week end in the 50s. It'll be a very pleasant feel for northern New Jersey. Southern New Jersey, again, has that better chance of some flurries later on tonight and maybe again tomorrow, but it's all about that drier trend with milder weather taking us into the 50s, Ken, as soon as Tuesday. We'll take it.
All right. Yes, we will, sir. It is 17 degrees now at 8:47, and Google has changed its policy. Now it'll track you on all your devices with no chance to opt out. Joining us now to talk about this and more is On New Jersey tech expert Fisher. Fisher is a brand and digital strategist that can be found on X, Threads, and Instagram with username @Fisher and through his website, fisher.media. Good morning, Fisher. And what does Google's announcement mean to the average cell phone and computer user?
Yeah, unfortunately, it means a lot, but what you can do about it is not a lot. So we'll back up a couple of steps. A lot of you might be familiar with cookies that are placed on your computer. You might not know what they do exactly, but you know that you have the option to opt out when you go to websites. You usually see it on the bottom. You can reject all, you can accept all. Some websites don't give you the option. Cookies are a little text file that is downloaded off a website and is stored in what is called local storage on your computer. And that's where certain pieces of information, whether it's advertising related, that you like certain things, the reason why when you go to Amazon, you don't have to sign in all the time unless you say you're on a public computer and don't save my information. So these cookies are stored on your computer. And a number of years ago, Google said that we will no longer allow third-party cookies. So you must do first-party cookies, which means the website must own the information. You can't take a vendor and put them on your site to collect your user data. You must do it yourself. And since Google is such a large corporation with a huge footprint, many apps, it's on everything. Obviously, Google Chrome, they make the Android phone operating system. So it's very persuasive. So when they say they're going to do something, everybody else has to. And Google also frequently changes their mind. So they did a big push for first-party cookies. It got to, I think it was the end date was July of 2023. And then they said, we're okay. Like, you could still use third-party cookies. We prefer you to use your first-party data. Now, what they announced at the end of 2024, and we've known this was coming, it's been talked about, is something called digital fingerprinting. And digital fingerprinting is interesting because it takes many pieces of information, none of which you can opt into. It could actually take up to 60 different pieces of information from your computer, from your device, and it uses that to identify you more specifically than it did with the cookies, which might only be few pieces of information. Obviously, there are acts and regulations in place. The most familiar one is GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe, where a lot of companies, whether American-based or European, Asian-based, they kind of take those regulations to heart. Also CCPA, which is the California Consumer Protection Act, and that one is pretty much the standard for the United States. Virginia and Colorado are also rolling out their own regulations. But the main thing about this is that, unlike cookies, again, when you go to a website, you usually see do not track, reject all, accept all. I always say reject all when you go to a website. But with fingerprinting, digital fingerprinting, you cannot opt out. It does not ask for your. You cannot delete it. A familiar one, Ken, I'm sure, whether you worked for a company or work for a company and you call IT, or you have a smart kid who knows computers, they always tell you when something's going on with your computer, clear the cache. And you can't do that here. And clearing the cache wipes out all that local storage and all those cookies I mentioned. With digital fingerprinting, that is not possible.
Is that because is it ostensibly, or at least they make you think, it's so that because you're gonna switch from device to device and be on your Google account to make it easy to get back to what you were like when you were on your
No,
computer, now you're
you
at
can
your
do that.
phone, so it's to make it easier? Is that the point?
No, I mean, you could do that now. I have On New Jersey on YouTube, watching it live, and when I go to my device, I open up YouTube. It'll say, "Do you still want to watch it?" Right. So that's already prevalent. This is just making sure that advertisers, websites know it's more you without using personally identifiable information, which would be more like your zip code, your name, your credit card numbers, your address. That's real personal identifiable information, PII. By taking things like, and I'm looking at I got my fingerprint, screen height, screen width, what operating system I'm using on my computer. Do I have cookies enabled for other devices? The fact that I'm using an Apple computer on Safari. It's really just taking as much information as possible to identify me without it being too personal. Google says that it's very secure, but the fact that you can't opt out is definitely going to be something that will be looked at very intently very soon, I'm sure.
And we all use Google for everything. Unfortunately, they are the big brother overseeing it all. We are running out of time here, but go ahead.
So so the fact is that they influence a lot, and then they're forcing Firefox and Safari and the other browsers and the other operating systems to follow suit. Otherwise, they don't get the same information, and Google then has a leg
There's
up.
the problem. And we're stuck. All right, we will definitely be on this more. On New Jersey tech expert Fisher, brand and digital strategist, found on X, Threads, and Instagram with the username @Fisher and through his website fisher.media. Thanks as always for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Ken.
You got it, bud. Now for all things Trenton politics, here's New Jersey Globe editor David Wildstein with the Inside Edge.
Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, February 19th. Welcome to the Inside Edge. And the filing deadline is just 33 days away. In this year's Democratic gubernatorial primary, the conventional wisdom is that a larger field benefits all six candidates. Each of them has a path to win, some more difficult paths than others. And so a bigger field means that you could potentially win a primary with less votes, with a lower percentage. And maybe in a way the candidates are disincentivized from killing anybody off. Uh, Perhaps that was one of the reasons you didn't see anybody going for the jugular in the debate earlier this month. Back in 1981, Jim Florio won a 13 candidate Democratic primary with 26%. The same year, Tom Kaine won the Republican primary, 8 candidates with a little under 31%. There's two sides to this. Some some people think that their candidate might do better in a smaller field. Uh, some of the candidates are natural competitors in the same lane. You've got Steve Fulop and Raz Baraka and Sean Spiller competing on the left. You've got Mikey Sherrill and Josh Gottheimer and Steve Sweeney duking it out for the middle. There's some regional politics going on. Three of the candidates, Cheryl, Baraka, and Spiller from Essex County. If Baraka wasn't in this race, Cheryl would have a much easier time winning urban areas like Newark and East Orange and Irvington, and that would allow her to accumulate some votes toward her statewide margin that she's not going to get with Baraka in it. And this isn't just ideological and regional. We're talking in this primary about the politics of race, about religion, about gender, and so it's not all that simple. No one's votes are necessarily transferable. If somebody decided to not go the distance, it's not like any one candidate could automatically pick up all their votes. And if we still had the organization line, the county line, this wouldn't even be a discussion. You would simply have one candidate inherit sort of like an heir the other candidate's organizational support. So, we continue to watch how fundraising is going, whose super PAC emerges as the strongest, as the most potent. On this one, it's up for you to decide at this point. I'd like to hear from you. Comment if you're watching this on social media. Always feel free to email me at david@njglobe.com. And of course, you can call Brian Stack on his cell phone. Call him anytime. That is it for today, and I'll be back tomorrow.
Thank you very much, David. Always good to have David on. It is now 17 degrees, actually up to 19 degrees, excuse me, at 8:57. That is on New Jersey Mornings for your Wednesday. But before we let you go, we are going to remind you of just two traffic incidents. Again, if you are traveling on I-80 through Wharton eastbound, you will be detoured off still at exit 34. We had our expert on earlier saying this is going to last weeks until they could properly repair all of the sinkholes. There's the main sinkhole, and there are a bunch of other voids in the ground around it. So that's got to be repaired first. And NJ Transit offering limited service on Raritan Valley Line after yesterday's freight train derailment. So you're going to have to take either the limited trains or squeeze on the buses today, unfortunately, on this cold day. That is it for On New Jersey Mornings for your Wednesday. I'm Ken Rosato. Remember, you can stream us on ONNJ.com, Roku, Fire TV, News on Samsung TV Plus, Apple TV, YouTube, Facebook, and X. And now we stream live on Twitch. Just go to twitch.tv/On New Jersey. We'll catch you again tomorrow morning at 7. Tell all your friends about us. I'll ask you. Until then, have a great day.